Hey, you have just entered the black hole of real estate, and coming up is episode 6. We're so glad that you joined us today. And like we say, once you enter the black hole, you're going to find it really hard to escape. And I think you're going to want to stay. So, this week, we're going to talk to how do we go back in time, pre COVID, in the real estate industry to get back to what we're comfortable with and what we know. Um, what does the market look like, and what about rates? What about investments? And where's the big opportunity? And what should we be watching out for at the end? So, the first thing is the Wayback Machine is probably not alive, or is it well? And I don't know that we're going to go back to anything in real estate. Things have changed, um, probably in some ways for the better. The way the properties are being shown uh, is definitely something that more virtual and more technology is entering the field at a higher rate. I think it's been there for many years. But now people are realizing that they don't have to necessarily be at every showing every time, and a virtual can work pretty good if you're working with the right agent who has the right technology. So it's something that's probably going to continue, and I don't know that sellers are going to easily jump on the market and feel comfortable with people coming through their homes because we're still just getting our toes back in the water in the state of Florida with the state reopening on a somewhat limited basis, measured basis. So sellers definitely are aware that there's some things they're going to get comfortable with in order to sell their property, especially if they live in the home. If it's owner occupied, who's coming in? Are they wearing a mask? Have they been washing their hands? Are they sick? Legitimate questions, or maybe they're just what is asymptomatic. So for a seller, that's going to be a concern. For buyers, I think it's a little easier because the technology is there, and we could certainly arrange showings where doors are propped open and not have to touch anything except for maybe the floor as you're walking around. So I think it's a little easier on the buyers right now than perhaps the sellers, but we'll see. I don't know that we're going to go back to the way it was quickly or easily. Uh, Too much has changed, and let's face it, with all the things that families are experiencing right now and investors, I think we can only look to what it's going to be like and accept that new normal. And the quicker we adapt into that, the more success we'll have if we're going to be in the real estate space in 2020. What does the current market look like? Inventory in Florida, for the most part, is pretty low right now, and interest rates are pretty low too. So you would think that that's a recipe for a vibrant market, and you might be right. We're seeing increased activity just this week compared to last, and mind you, our April went pretty smooth. Most of the homes ended up getting closed, statewide. The one area of concern would be the commercial area, though there was a lot of cancellations in commercial. But by and large, April was a pretty strong month for sales. Those were the ones that went under contract in February and March, and those are getting done. May be just a little bit off. People were hesitant during, the shutdown, the lockdown of Florida in April. But we're already seeing signs that June and July might be better months and getting us back on the road to recovery. When you're in a low inventory situation, it may not necessarily benefit the buyer, and the reason would be that there's very few homes to choose from and not a lot of replacement properties currently coming on the market. But the interest rates are low, so that might overcome any pricing issues. And I don't know the homes are going up in value, but I haven't seen that precipitous drop that some people warned might be in the offing. And I also believe that as we move forward into recovery, that sellers will be putting more homes on the market, and those should replace the ones that are sold. So I think we'll continue to see this ebb and flow in the weeks to come. I don't see the sellers or buy side gaining a specific advantage. I think they're going to balance each other out, but it may just ebb and flow. And I think we'll continue to see that be the case. Um, what about interest rates? Well, right now, I mean, we're in that historical low period, and there's not much reason to think those rates are going to go sharply up. The money is available from, government agencies to the lenders at a super reduced rate. We don't believe that the Fed's going to be doing any increases in the rate that can be borrowed by banks. So it should be available. We're getting through the PPP area where those fundings are occurring, and that's a whole episode all by itself. But for the foreseeable future, it appears that interest rates are going to remain super low, and that's going to be a great opportunity for buyers if they're able to buy and if they would actually like to buy in 2020. Not everybody wants to move in this environment, and that's okay. The ones that are going to move are the ones that historically have moved. They're increasing their family size or decreasing their family size. They're becoming empty nesters or moving for a job location because their current one does not provide enough hours, value, pay to stay where they are. So those are the type of circumstances that people generally would move on. There's a few others. The ones that are on hold right now are probably the investors and flippers because we're not sure exactly what that market is going to look like for those. And my goodness, if you've got an Airbnb right now, that's got to be a little nerve wracking because travel is down, and some of the areas are still restricting short-term visits under 30 days. That's something that we can also talk about as being an opportunity. And the main thing right now is the market right now. What it looks like to me is with super low inventory and super low rates, there's going to be opportunities out there for both sides, and I think that's what's going to cause this market to stay balanced. Um, where is the opportunity over the next 90 days? If you're looking to invest, and let's say it's commercial property, I'm not sure we're going to see a better opportunity. Vacancies are definitely higher than they were, and there are more people thinking about getting out of the leases at the end or maybe cutting them short. Your retail space, that's changed dramatically. Who's going into a store? I mean, for that matter, restaurants are only at 25% capacity right now. Not everybody's rushing back into restaurants. So if you are on a buy and hold strategy or looking for an opportunity, commercial is something that can absolutely provide some opportunities. I am aware that probably more than half the commercial deals are either on hold or just been completely removed. I know some commercial brokers that have lost 80% of their pending contracts, and that's a tough thing. And if anything, I believe we'll see more properties coming on the market. So we could have an oversupply on the commercial side with a lack of buyers. I think that's where you may see some price opportunities, but I don't know how you're going to reconcile the fact that the old space may not be suitable for the new market. These huge area spaces by square footage or even by number of floors that may not be as desired in the future. And where we see these business complexes with a central conference center and a front desk, are those going to be well supported in this new environment as well because of all the additional contract and more people coming into the building from different businesses? There's probably a lack of control for each individual business because you have to go to whatever the space governs and have to trust everybody that's in different organizations that occupy those spaces. So that's definitely going to be something to watch for. But commercial spaces, I think we're going to see more of them subdivided and taken from big spaces down to small spaces to get more people in there. And as far as the mall and strip mall, I don't even know what you do with a mall that you can walk around in. What is that going to look like? I'd love to hear comments on that because I don't think anybody is thinking positive about that. That's going to be a long way back for them. Um, what other opportunity is out there? Well, if you're playing the foreclosure game, we know back in the market crash 2008 in Florida, close to 70% of the properties were in the foreclosure or short sale area. And I don't know that we're there today or anywhere near that. We're well below 5%. I mean, numbers as low as 2%, depending on what part of the state that you're in. But, and here's the but, because everything matters what comes after the but. The recent statistics show that 10.5% of FHA mortgages are now in forbearance. And overall, 7.3% of active mortgages are in forbearance. And there's a number of sources that are talking about Fannie and Freddie Mac loans specifically being 6% of those in forbearance. So what does all this forbearance mean? Well, if you're not familiar, or maybe you got in one and didn't read the fine print, typically in a forbearance, they're delaying payments to a future date, and let's call it 6 months. And for sake of round numbers, let's say that your mortgage payment was $1,000 a month, and they offered push the button and put your property into forbearance. And a lot of people just clicked the button and didn't read the fine print, and I hope that wasn't a bad decision for you. Here's why. Let's suppose that you clicked that button in April. Come October, November, that forbearance is going to come due. And if you owed $1,000 per month being forgiven for 6 months, that's $6,000 in payments on top of your, let's say, November payment. That's 7 grand. So start saving. If you're in forbearance, start saving. It's not pushing it to the back of the book in most cases. It's just saying we won't take any payments for 6 months, but you get to catch it all up in the seventh month. And I think that's going to be hard for a lot of people. So if we're looking at 10.5% of FHA mortgages currently in forbearance, even 5% of those, if they go into some sort of foreclosure or default, that's going to more than double the current available number of foreclosures. And that's the early numbers. How many other people or homeowners are going to be in a situation where they do not have the job that they had, or maybe there's two incomes down to one, or they realize that childcare for them is not in the future cards and they really don't want that anymore, and they go down to one income. I believe that you are going to see some increased foreclosure activity around the holidays. And I believe that what will happen is they'll get a few more months to get past the holidays. And then I think you'll see it in 2021 as the numbers start to spike a little bit. And I don't mean a dramatic 50% of homes under foreclosure. This is not 2008, but I do believe that foreclosures could be going from less than 5% of the market to approaching 10% of the market. I don't think that's an unrealistic number, but we'll see. And nobody's rooting for it, but the seeds have been sown on this. And I believe that more people, as we go through the summer, may look at alternatives such as forbearance to paying their mortgages. I mean, if you can't make your payment and it's going to be a late payment and you don't want to totally destroy your credit, then hey, you take the forbearance and you roll the dice on it. Let's face it, if you can't pay for the property, a forbearance is better than just letting it accumulate 6 months worth of bad payments. I'm not saying not to do it. What I am saying is if you are in a position where you can make the payment, even if it's a little uncomfortable, you might be better off to do that. I don't think the forbearances opportunities are going away. I can't see it through the end of the year that someone's going to be affected by this. I think most banks are going to have that opportunity out there because it's always been there. It's just more prevalent right now because so many people ran to it at the same time and for good reason. The pandemic, well, I want to say it's alive and well. I will say it continues. We hope it's less than. Hey, if we have a second surge of this, well, good God, what's the next thing we're going to be looking at? The first round of PPP went through. Second round, is happening as we speak. Some of the big companies are giving the money back that probably never should have got that money in the first place. But it's uncharted waters going forward right now. We hope that we begin recovery, right away. But I think it's going to take a little bit of time, and that's where we really want to watch the opportunities to market. And there's a difference between having an opportunity and being opportunistic. Opportunity is out there for everybody. Opportunistic is, are you positioned in such a way that you can take advantage of the market in that situation and not take care of people, take advantage of people. There's always going to be opportunities, and there are going to be people that just have to sell a property that maybe aren't in a financial hardship position or in a forbearance. It just may be time to sell in their cycle. And if you're at a point where you're moving inventory from the real estate space to other areas, it might just be time to sell a property. And you might be selling into a weaker market than you might have sold into last year. But, that person selling may have a different opportunity to move that money to something else. Maybe they just want precious metals. Maybe they want to cash other properties and buy gold. Maybe they want to buy into oil. There's other places to go to. So before we think we're capitalizing on people, being opportunistic to me just means being prepared when there's an opportunity in front of you to take advantage of it. Your thoughts might be different. I look forward to your comments. And again, if there's anything that we can do to add value to you, I'd love to do that. This is Ron Wojciechowski. Enjoyed spending time with you on the Black Hole of Real Estate.